There was an unusually candid interview that aired on Tuesday evening on Newsnight, and it should give us all pause. Torsten Bell, Labour's new welfare minister, the former head of the Resolution Foundation and now the Member of Parliament for Swansea West, admitted without prevarication that he absolutely couldn't live on £70 a week. For those of us that are unaware, £70 a week is precisely the figure that many young people may now be left with under Labour's newly announced benefit reforms. It's no accidental admission. This was a live confession of a truth that most of Westminster suspects, but rarely acknowledges, that a system we are asking others to endure is not one we ourselves could actually survive. The context is stark. Liz Kendall, the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, has just unveiled reforms aimed at, quote, getting people off benefits and into work. In theory, admirable. In practice, these changes include tightening the criteria for personal independence payment, PIP, freezing certain universal credit payments, and perhaps most gallingly, excluding under-22s from claiming incapacity benefits. Bell's response on Newsnight, when pressed by Victoria, Derbyshire, was illuminating. When told some young people would be left with just £70 a week for all non-housing costs, food, transport, energy, he replied with disarming honesty, absolutely not, I couldn't live on that. I have a mortgage to pay. Ah, yes, the mortgage. He replied, this is straightforward and this is direct. Of course, a young person with chronic fatigue syndrome, say, or early onset schizophrenia will not be encumbered with such a middle-class burden as a mortgage or school fees. No, they merely have to pay for survival. But this isn't just about gaffes or optics. This is a moment of ethical and political contradiction. Labour is now asking the public to accept austerity, not only as necessary, but as progressive, a sort of compassionate cruelty designed to nudge the ill into employment. And yet the very people designing this new world admit that they could never manage on it themselves. Bell did try to claw the conversation back. He noted that the system still provides housing benefit and that PIP remains available for those with significant disabilities. But as Derbyshire rightly pointed out, many will fall through the cracks. Those not quite sick enough, those not quite disabled enough, those perhaps not deserving, those who aren't the deserving poor, to use a Dickensian term, or is a Shavian term, actually. It's from My Fair Lady, it's from the Pygmalion, the deserving and the undeserving poor, but still too unwell to work. To them, the government now says, survive on £70. And don't expect us to do the same. And this speaks to a broader problem with contemporary British welfare policy. It's haunted by the ghost of the deserving poor. The post-war welfare state was built on the premise of universal dignity, not moral testing. But successive governments, red and blue alike, have moved towards a punitive model of welfare as suspicion. Are you sick enough? Are you disabled enough? Are you job-seeking enough? What's worse, this round of reforms has arrived with no impact assessment. Charities, disabled people's organisations and even Labour's backbenchers, some 80 of whom are reportedly preparing to rebel, have called the plans dangerous and even abhorrent. Debbie Abrams, MP, asked sensibly why we can't find more compassionate ways to balance the books. Why, in short, must the poor always be the ones to pay? And Clive Lewis put it more bluntly, this is not what a Labour government should be doing. Yet the leadership remains unmoved. Keir Starmer, writing in The Times, claimed that the cost of disability and sickness benefits was not only damaging public finances, it was also wreaking a terrible human cost. One wonders, whose cost precisely? This is a dangerous narrative forming in British politics, that fiscal prudence and moral cruelty are one and the same, that the route to compassion must go through discipline, that cutting support is somehow the adult thing to do. And when challenged on this, on whether or not some minister could live on the scraps now offered to the vulnerable, our welfare minister shrugs and says, well, I've got a mortgage. What's being revealed is not just a policy flaw, but a class chasm, a gulf between those who make the rules and those who have to live by those rules. And a government that promised to restore trust now finds itself defending measures that neither its own ministers nor its core MPs can convincingly support. In conclusion, this is not merely a political misstep. It's a moral test, and one that Labour at present appears to be in danger of failing.